Hey everyone, and welcome back to our podcast. This is episode 2 of our podcast, Cut the Bullshit. So welcome. We are still here, believe it or not. Episode 1 went down really, really well, so I hope you enjoyed it. We are back this week talking about electric cars, which is slightly controversial, probably a little bit less than last week's one, to be perfectly honest with you. But nevertheless, it does have its kind of own opinions. So that's definitely going to be one thing we are going to talk about. So yeah, here is my pal.
Yeah, so funnily enough, electric cars, it's something, like I say, we'll talk about it in a minute. But first of all, how's your week been, considering you didn't let me ask you last episode?
No, I definitely didn't, did I? We kind of cut each other up and all that, didn't we? So yeah, I've went 2 weeks.
All right,
but yeah,
how's your 2 weeks been then?
You know what? It's not been too bad. Work's been quite how can I put it? Steady. Let's say it's not been as stressful as it can be. To be fair, so it's not been too bad. Home life is home life, as you would expect. to be perfectly honest with
you.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's not been too bad. What about you?
Yes, same shit, different day. Just people being annoying. You don't have any idea how much I want to throw certain people off my project, but we won't go into that. They're just moaning twats. As simple as that. And I know I'm being a moaning twat now by moaning about them, but when you get 8 weeks of moaning twat, you tend to start moaning about them.
I mean, every time I talk to you, it sounds like you're constantly on your period, to be perfectly honest with you. So I hope the missus has bought you a couple of months' supplies worth of pads, because it definitely sounds like you need them.
Someone's lit the fuse on my tampon.
Let's not go back into the transgender stuff, shall we?
Yeah, it's fucking males to females. Don't need them. Anyway, so
here we go again.
So we said we're going to talk about this electric car shite, and the 2030 combustion engine ban on new cars, and then obviously they've extended it to 2035 for hybrid vehicles. And funnily enough, this episode, literally about an hour before we started recording this episode, something happened that tied in really nicely with this episode.
I'm dreading to know what this is, actually, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm really, really dreading it.
Oops, I just knocked my mic, sorry. One of my colleagues who has a electric Audi e-tron something or other, which if I look out of the window, I can see it plugged in. Now,
it's not plugged in anymore.
No, it is plugged in because, right, so it's plugged in at 10 to 11 at night because he left site. He then got back to wherever he was going. I think he went, did a bit shopping, a bit something to eat or whatever. Got back to the hotel and realised that his car that had been plugged in all bloody day, like 13 hours, hadn't charged. However, it was charging when he left the car. So he rang me up and he said, "What are you doing? Are you on? Are you on?" I said, "Yeah, I'm on." So he said, "Right, okay." He said, "I've just realised my car hasn't charged. I've got a 160-mile journey to do tomorrow, and I've only got a 117-mile range. As we'll get into, we all know that range is generally bollocks anyway. So,
more like 90 miles.
So luckily, the hotel that he's staying at is up the road from where we're working. So he said, I'll come in, I'll plug it in, and I'll leave it overnight, and I'll either walk down in the morning, or if I'm going to the hotel early on, depending on what time the lads finish on project, I'll bring him in to work in the morning to pick his car up. Wouldn't have happened if you had a fucking diesel, would it? Because you can just fill it up at a petrol station.
I mean, yes, true, but he also could have forgot to put diesel in the car.
Yeah, but that doesn't, because filling up a car with diesel takes 3 fucking minutes. Charging a car, even with superchargers, takes an hour or so.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you know, deep diving into this, like electric cars are not where they're meant to be. I mean, I think the first electric car was somewhere back in like the fully electric car was like somewhere back in like the 40s or 50s, something like that. But obviously,
1800s, mate.
was it 1800s? All right,
Yeah,
so
somewhere around there, I think.
I am miles off then, aren't I? You can tell I'm no
So's
historian.
the range thing on the fucking electric cars.
Yeah, they're well off too. I mean, to be fair though, like just slightly off the electric subject, but still on the car subject. I mean, Top Gear, for example, there's a perfectly good episode of Jeremy Clarkson. I think he goes from the most westerly point to the most easterly point in a Jag, I believe it is, and the car is reading like 0 on diesel for absolute miles, and this car just keeps on going. It keeps on going, and it just doesn't give up. And this is the thing: once the electricity runs out on a car, that's it. It's done. It's dead. It needs to be charged. Whereas for some reason, you can still feel like you can get a little bit more on a combustion engine, whether it be diesel, petrol. It still offers a little bit, whereas electricity just doesn't. It's like,
Well, yeah. The other thing, I mean, so the first electric car, just for your knowledge, so you know, and for everybody who's listening, obviously,
he's gone and Googled it, hasn't
he? Was in 1888.
There you go, 1888.
And it was a rechargeable lead acid battery with a top speed of 9 miles per hour. And it was called.
Isn't that what they do now? Like 9 miles an hour?
Yeah, unless you're using your windscreen wipers on 7. And
Put
it
your
was
radio
called.
on.
So if you want to do a bit of research, listeners, on it, just to see what it was like, because obviously it would have been an old-timey car, it was called the Flocken Electro Wagon.
We've got it in share. It's a picture here.
I imagine, yeah, I'll find one and I'll put it in. I imagine it was German.
What gave you that idea?
German. Hang on, Edgar
Friendly.
Dr. Ferdinand Porsche, built by Dr. Ferdinand Porsche.
Wonder if he owns Porsche.
There's a good chance. But yeah, so that was the first electric car. Now obviously it was just somebody part-arsing around. You know, it wasn't. I don't think it was supposed to be an alternative fucking thing. You know, it had a 1 horsepower electric motor in it. I'd imagine it was just someone farting around saying, basically, look at what I can do, you know. And I'd also imagine that he disappeared quite quickly once the oil industry found out.
He wasn't getting very far than a 9 mile an hour car.
Well, no, he wasn't. He can probably run faster.
I can walk faster than that, and I'm a fat twat.
Yeah, so it's the main issue with them for me is range.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, again, I know we joked about the windscreen wipers on, and then it was 7 miles an hour, but that's another thing. In a regular combustion car, diesel or petrol, running lights, running radios, running windscreen wipers, all of that isn't affected. Doesn't affect the amount of fuel you use.
No.
Maybe the aircon does. Some people say that the aircon does.
I'm pretty sure that Mythbusters have kind of debunked that, to be fair, but
I know they did an episode on it, but I can't remember. I'd have to rewatch it. Oh, look, there's something I can do. Yeah, so either way, it's in an electric car, and it was proven by the was it the G Whiz? Was the first one that everybody laughed at. You know, you got a choice. If it's pissing down with rain at night, you've got a choice. You can either see where you're going with your windscreen wipers going, or you can have your lights on with no windscreen wipers going.
And crash into a wall.
Yeah, well, that's all it was. They were good for. And the cost of it is ridiculous. I mean, the G Wiz cost $25,000 with a
Yeah.
lithium-ion battery pack. 25
25K.
grand for a G Wiz. And I'll slide a picture of a G Wiz in anyway for people that don't know what one is, but I'd imagine a lot of you know what they are. And you think the cost of that, and then you look at the cost of the main issue for me with electric cars at the moment. Now I know it's all changing and it changes quite quickly, but the cost of an electric vehicle that suits a spec that everybody would pretty much, heavy usage and stuff like that. People who own diesel vehicles, people like me who own a caravan, people like me who do a lot of mileage.
Yeah, people like you who block the motorways in the summer.
Shut up.
With your caravans.
I drive with I'm very courteous with my caravan on, mainly because I don't want to turn my car
You're
over.
definitely one of them. You're definitely one of them who stops on the fucking motorway and has a sandwich.
No, only at a service station. But yeah, right, I take me as an example because this is the research that I've done because I did it before I bought my most recent car. I priced up for what I needed. So I needed a vehicle that towed a caravan of a certain weight, and I needed something that was decent range, and I needed something that was cheap to run. Now, I have looked into and always believed that it was actually more expensive to run an electric vehicle, which we'll get into in a minute. I have found out that per mile it isn't, so I have done my research and I do concede that I was wrong in certain respects. However, to spec up an electric vehicle for what I needed to go with something along the lines of either the Tesla Model X or the Kia EV9.
But doesn't the Tesla Model X, I think you just said, doesn't it start from around 90 grand?
Exactly. That's my point.
Yeah, so it's an extortionate amount of money to pay for something that you'll get about 300-400 miles out of before you need to sit at a service station, especially doing the mileage that you do. And obviously, as you were saying, like you've got a caravan, and obviously you use that to go on holiday. Now, if you're doing, whatever mileage it is, at some point you're going to stop at a service station. We all do it when we go on holiday. I did it when I went to Edinburgh, or when I went to Scotland. I've done it when I went to Cornwall. And most of the time, you stop off at a service station, grab a quick, you grab a quick bite to eat or something. You use the bog, and then you're off again. Whereas most of the time, you'll see a fucking, an electric car sat there for a good hour, 2 hours, sat at a service station because it needs charging. It's an absolute joke. And for someone like yourself who does tow a caravan, you're looking at, so they're saying that you'll get somewhere between 3 and 350 mile range, but that's in perfect conditions. It's not with rain. It's not with heavy wind coming at you.
It's
It's
not
not
with a
without
caravan on the
towing
back
anything.
either. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's not with the extra weight. It's not even just with the caravan. Even if you're going on holiday, you've got all kinds of stuff in the back of the car. So it's the added weight to just the car. And then if you do tow as well, do you know what I mean? And then it's the added weight of that. So there's no way you're getting 300 miles out of that car. It's more like between 2 and 250. So you've lost 100 miles range just by those two conditions alone.
Yeah, exactly. And like you say, the price. I mean, look, I'd never put money in that silly cunt's pocket. I'd never buy a Tesla. If I got given one, I'd do what most Teslas like doing and set it on fire. But I did like the look of the Kia, and it looks like a nice car. It's essentially that its counterpart, its internal combustion engine counterpart, is the Kia Sorento. which is one that I actually looked at before I purchased my most recent car. No, the car before my most recent car. I don't want to get into that.
Please don't, because we'll be here for another episode.
But I looked at it and I couldn't afford the spec that I wanted with the Kia. So I went with the Santa Fe instead. But I looked at the EV9 because I thought, well, I'm going to have to go electric at some point if they start being shitty with internal combustion engine cars. And if they ban them, obviously what will happen is supply and demand and all prices will go up. So I looked at the EV9 and its range is less than a Tesla Model X in the lab conditions, with a 300 to 345 mile range, depending on which one you go for. 65 to 78 grand. Now, just to put that in context, I bought, granted, that's a new car, fair enough. I bought an 11 plate VW 2-litre diesel for $6,500, I think it cost me. No, less than that. It was 5.5, somewhere around that. And if I fill that up and I don't drive like an arse, which I generally don't drive like an arse because I've got a young child in the back and a wife in the other seat, I can get a good 550, 600 miles out of a tank of diesel. Even towing, I can get a good 500 miles out of a tank of diesel. So why the fuck would I go electric? And the maintenance is a bit cheaper. There's a bit less to change. There's still cooling batteries and all that kind of stuff, which is fair enough. But the big thing, so from what I was looking at online and from the research that I did, batteries, which is obviously the major fucking thing in a vehicle, electric vehicle.
Well, if it doesn't have a battery, it's fucked.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's not like you just slide a couple of double A's into it. You know what I mean? But
wouldn't it be the D batteries?
Would there be a fair few of them still, though, wouldn't there? Okay, now.
There'd be a fair few, yeah.
Yeah. Because what electric car batteries are essentially massive banks of what you've got in the back of your mobile phone. It's not one big fuck off battery. It's a load of tiny batteries linked together in a pack. After about, on average, between 8 years or 100,000 miles is when the batteries need to be replaced.
Yeah. Almost as bad as a mattress.
At the same cost, not as a mattress, at the same cost of a decent second-hand internal combustion engine car. So the EV9 battery will cost you about £10,000 to replace. And the Tesla Model X is between £13,000 and £20,000 to replace.
It's just a joke, isn't it?
Well, it's stupid because I can replace an engine in an internal combustion engine car for £5,000. And that's a it might be a reasonably new engine. But obviously, the older the engine, the more miles on it, the cheaper it is. And then you've got to have someone who fit it. I mean, I've got someone who fit it for me. There's no problem. Not everybody does. I appreciate that. Some people might have to go to a fucking garage to get it done. Fair enough. But it's still going to be cheaper than fucking Tesla's Model X low fucking end battery at $13,000.
Yeah.
And you got to do that every 8 to 10 years. What's going to happen? No, people are just going to go out and buy second-hand cars, even second-hand electric cars. Why would you purchase a brand new battery when the rest of your car's been through 100,000 miles? I'm going to say that I made the foul error of not searching how much a fucking motor costs to replace, but the motor's a big thing as well. The motor is essentially the engine. Yeah. And that going through 100,000 miles is going to need replacement at some point.
Yeah, I think one of the big things as well is for me personally, at some point, 2035 when the ban comes into place, and we're not allowed any hybrid cars or whatever, and it's purely meant to be electric at that point. The way prices are now in 2025, and like I said, you're looking at start at 90,000 for the Tesla Model X. That's about the price of a house in some areas. So it's kind of like getting to the point where you're choosing between an electric car or a house. You can't have both. It's one. It feels like it's kind of one or the other. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. But so what'll happen, especially with the price of things, is that you won't own the car.
No,
you
won't
own a car. You'll just be paying a monthly subscription service to a fucking car. Yeah. The Model X, funnily enough, it's actually cheaper than. Sorry to go back to it. Cheaper than the battery to replace. The Model X motor is about $4,500 to replace. And the Model S and Model Y go down and down because obviously the models go down and down in the end, the motors go down and down in power and all that shit. But we're using the Model X as an example because the Model X, like I said, when I was speccing up a car, what I needed, the Model X was the only one that suited the spec. So that's why I've put the Model X in. Yes, you can get a Model S and a Model Y and a Model 3 cheaper again, respectively. But for what I'm looking at, that's why I've used the Model X. But it'll get to a point where you never own a car. You just have one on. I mean, in some jobs have them on salary sacrifice, which makes it a little bit cheaper for you to run. I know my company does that. I would rather shit in my hands and clap. But you'll never own that car, and it'd be like getting a mortgage on a house. You're just mortgaging a car.
Yeah, pretty much, because there's very few people out there who can afford £90,000 for a car, and like we said, we are using the Tesla Model X as a stupid example. But on Tesla, is it just me, or does their badge look like something it shouldn't?
Their badge looks like a vagina.
It really does. It really does. I'm sorry, but it does. Like, I mean, we all know that Elon Musk is a vagina anyway. He is a cunt. And it kind of, it definitely suits him, to be fair. But it's just astronomical. I mean, because we're talking about Elon Musk, I'm just going to quickly touch on it. But look what he's done with Twitter. Do you know what I mean? He's put it on a subscription, and this just proves how much of a cunt he actually is. And he's doing it with electric cars. He knows that at some point in 2035, he is going. He's already worth a fortune, but at that point, he is going to be. He's like an evil genius. Do you know what I mean? It's like Pinky in the Brain.
He's. I don't follow him much because I just see all the shit that he does online and stuff like that. And obviously we use Twitter as a thing for our podcast, and we use it as something that we look up things on and stuff like that. And that's because there is more of a freedom of speech, it seems, on Twitter than there is anywhere else. You say something fucking shitty on Facebook, you get banned for 6 months.
Yeah.
And shit like that, and you're sitting there going, "Oh, yeah, well, all I said was you're an arsehole. What do you want?" Whereas Twitter, you can be whatever you want to be, and nobody gives a shit.
Pretty much.
Which is about the only good thing about it. I hate it otherwise, but it's a handy tool.
Yeah, I mean, it is very, 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 very handy. But going back onto the cars, obviously, we know the reason why obviously this has come around, this ban, because they're all worried about emissions and stuff like that. And they say that the electric cars are cleaner for the earth, in the long run and stuff like that. The funny thing is, and I know obviously you've done a lot of research on this as well, but we're not the worst when it comes to the global emissions. And this is what's frustrating. We're the ones pushing for it pretty badly, but we're one of the lowest, if not the lowest, when it comes to the emissions.
We're not even 10th worst.
I think it's on around 1%, isn't it?
Yeah, so I'll slide the graph in that I found on Our World in Data is the place that I found this graph, and per capita CO2 emissions.
Mm-hmm.
So Saudi Arabia is the worst.
What a shock.
Considering that they produce most of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's where most of the oil comes from. Australia, US, and Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I lumped in Australia with US and Canada there. That was a silly thing to do. Australia, I imagine, I don't know, but the second worst. US and Canada, because they're obviously, I mean, fuck me, you want to see the size of the fucking cars in America, man.
Yeah, they are ridiculous, aren't they?
I think
but that's because their roads are like twice as big as ours.
Well, their average engine size is, I think it was 4.6 litres. Our average engine size is 1.6 litres.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, 1.6 litres can either be a petrol or a diesel in our country.
Yeah.
But that just gives you an idea. I mean, the guy that's got this electric car that's charging on site that I mentioned this morning, he's just come back from Canada. He was out in Canada for a year working for us. And he had a Ford F-150 full top spec. How the hell he got that signed off, I don't know. But he had a Ford F-150.
He was definitely blowing someone off up there.
Now, a Ford F-150, for those who don't know, if you imagine our Ford Ranger, which most of you will have seen knocking about, I drive a pickup truck for work. I drive a Mitsubishi L200 for work. And if you imagine a Ford Ranger, they came in 2.2 and 3.2 most commonly. I think they had a bigger engine than that, but they had the 3.2 and the 2.2 were the most common size engines. They were shite on diesel. But if you imagine the size of that and then add another 3/4 to that size, that's an F-150. And I think, as far as I'm aware, the F-150 is the smallest one Ford do in America and Canada.
It's a joke, that, isn't it? It's just ridiculous. There's no need for that.
I've seen an F-350. It looks like a fucking articulated lorry. I think it's an F-350. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's an F-350. Monster were doing something round here, the energy drink company, and I went and pulled up at a petrol station to fill up my truck with diesel, and they'd just finished an event somewhere or something, and they pulled up at the same petrol station, so they had a big fucking lorry and an F-350 full of Monster. I mean, he gave me a few cans. He was a very nice guy. But that was just because I was perving at his truck.
Jealous.
Well, I was perving at his truck because I love the look of him and I'd love to have one. Same with the Dodge Rams. The Dodge Rams are massive trucks. I've seen a couple of them American ones over here, actually. Some people have imported them and used them over here. But yeah, it's just the size of the engines in America are ridiculous. Now, granted, I appreciate their roads are bigger. They travel longer distances, blah, blah, blah. Just use a smaller engine and fill the fucker up more.
Mad, aren't you? Americans are lazy. I mean, you've seen videos on TikTok of like people like filling their engines with the wrong fuel.
Well, that's just thick.
They're thick and lazy, and that's why most of them are fat.
The worst one's watching someone try and fill up an electric car with diesel.
That's just, let's not go there. I mean, I know we're talking about electric cars, but we can't slide that in there because there's so much wrong with that. There's so much wrong with those videos.
Thick, isn't it? So yeah, further down the list, below Canada, South Korea, Russia, Germany, Japan, South Africa, EU 27, whatever the fuck that is. I should have looked into that. My apologies. China is above us, which I'm surprised they're not further up the list, considering that they basically they've been approving a new coal-fired power plant commissioning at a rate of about 2 a week.
Yeah, I'm very surprised at where they are, to be fair. I mean, just above us, I think like 31% of global CO2 emissions are from China, which is shocking, to be fair.
Yeah, they're just above us at 1%, though.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So that's the disparity between us on 11th on the list, I believe, compared to China, who is 10th on the list, but the actual percentage difference is 1 to 31%.
It's stupid. And when you look at China as well, like they are, they're growing at an astronomical rate as well. China, I mean, they're filling up like parts of their sea with like they're trying to build like artificial land effectively because they are growing.
Land reclamation or something along those lines.
That's it. I couldn't think of it. But they're actually using that because they are growing so quickly that they can't sustain their own population, and it's just ridiculous that the fact that the UK, us as a country, feel like we have to get ahead of this when we're not anywhere near the worst of causing this damage. We're nowhere near it. As you said, we're 11th on this list, and it's like, what are all the other countries doing to kind of help and prevent this? And they're not doing jack shit.
Fuck all, because they don't care.
No, this is all on us.
This is all what I believe. What I believe is, well, look, we might in future episodes get into some conspiracy theories and stuff.
Oh
like
yes,
that.
we will.
But this is what it for me. It's not just this government; it's the government before as well, and every other bloody government that's been involved. It's just another fucking excuse for them to tax us more and to try and earn more money off us. And this is the problem. I mean, we might get into the politics in another episode as well, but that's another problem that we need to sort of, us as people need to turn around and say, we've fucking had enough of you. And it started already. We'll just, I mean, I don't want to get into it too much, but we'll touch on it lightly. That Reform in the most recent local elections have gained pace. And I think that's good. I mean, no matter what you think about their stances on a lot of things, actually, we won't get into it too much, but it's always, an election's always going to be a two-horse race between Conservative and Labour. Now, obviously, because of what the Conservatives did in the past 14 fucking years that they've been in power, Labour won it last time. And he's basically gone back on fucking everything that he said he would do. And obviously he's skinting the fucking pensioners and stuff like that, so everybody's realised, oh shit, we shouldn't have fucking voted him in, and now everything's going the way it should be doing. Now, granted, they might not be any better, but got to be better than what we get now.
Well, we'll never know unless they get in, but we've got to wait another 4 years for that.
Well, with any luck, we'll be earlier than that.
Well, we'll see. It depends on what his next decision is, but
we don't want to touch on it.
Yeah,
because we might have a very political thing coming up soon anyway. But
there is one other thing I wanted to touch on, and I've mentioned this to you before in regards to the electric car thing. So, obviously, electric cars, we know that they need charging. Now, the most common place to charge electric cars at the minute are petrol stations, service stations, because they have the fast charging capabilities and stuff like that, where they say plug it in, half an hour to 45 minutes, and your car is almost fully charged, depending on obviously how much usage you took out of it, how much battery power you took out of it. Now, for a lot of people out there will have their own driveways and stuff like that. Even if they don't own their own house, there are still semi-detached houses, even terraced houses, where they have their own driveways, and it's a bit more secure for the cars to implement, or the houses, the owners, to implement the charging stations and whatever. Terraced houses, a lot of terraced houses in typical council estates don't have that capability. They don't have the option to get your car. I mean, my street, for example, I live in a terrace street, and there are times when my car is hybrid. So we're driving a Ioniq, At the minute, it's 78. No, wait, is it 78? I don't know. It's 2018 anyway. Hyundai Ioniq
68.
68. That's it. And that's that's what our car is. Now, obviously, it's a hybrid, so we don't have to worry about charging it. But my point is, there are times on my street when we're not able to park outside of our house because we have, obviously, we like I said, we live in a terraced street, so there are times when our neighbours have friends over, they have family over, whatever, and it interferes with us parking directly outside of our house. And sometimes we've had to park 3/4 up our street. And obviously the problem is if you've got an electric car and you have to do that, how are you meant to charge a car? It's not like you can knock on number fucking 27 of your street and go, "Hey, do you mind if I borrow your charge in a minute?"
Tenner, can I plug into your house, please?
Yeah, do you know what I mean? If I put a tenner towards your lecky bill, can I charge your car for half an hour because I can't park outside my house? Do you know what I mean? It's not like you can do that. And if you do have that issue, what are you meant to do at that point? Now, if anyone out there is in a similar situation and is thinking the same thing, let us know. Obviously email us in, and let us know your thoughts on the whole electric car scenario. Are you a person for it? Can you not wait to get an electric car, or are you dead set against it? And are you going to pull out your 25-year-old car that's been stuck in the garage for the last 10 years? You're just going to pull that out and just ride that around just because you fucking want to be perfectly honest with you.
Well, look. So
yeah.
you've brought up a valid thing, which is the charging at home. Now, obviously, on the other end of the spectrum, I'm sort of lucky enough not to live in a terraced house in regards to the space I get outside and stuff like that. I've got a driveway. Lex. And,
he lives in an old people's estate. I'm not even gonna lie to you.
And it's quiet, and that's why I love it. So yeah, someone like myself who does have the option of being able to put an electric car charger in and charge it on my driveway. Again, I'm going to say it again. I would rather shit in my hands and clap, but it is what it is. And I've been looking again, researching for this. There are options for people who live in terraced houses or live in areas that don't have the space. But those options only work if what you've just brought up doesn't happen. Those options only work if you can park outside your house.
Yeah.
The other option that is being looked at is putting electric car chargers on streetlights, which is grand. How do they charge for it, though, in regards to money, not in regards to how much electric you put in your car?
It might be a case of like putting it, like a card reader on it or something like that. Do you know what I mean? So you put your postcode in.
Fantastic for all the people that go around smashing shit up for the fun of it.
Well, yeah, exactly. Again, on council estates and stuff like that, that would happen quite a lot.
Yeah, and also with regards to charging in public areas, like outside your house, if you're living in a terraced estate, or if you live in a place where you've not got a private driveway, you've got people running around unplugging cars and stuff like that. And then obviously you've got the issue of then in the morning you get to your car to go to work, especially in the winter, because battery life, again, going back onto this kind of thing, battery life is reduced in the winter because it's fucking cold.
Yeah.
You need to you get up in the morning in winter, it's -3 or something. You get into your car, you turn it on, and there's no charging it because some little fucking scrote has unplugged your cable. Or fucked off with it. Do you know how expensive them cables are? They're ridiculous charging cables.
Yeah. Almost as expensive as the Tesla Model X.
There's nothing, and there's nothing stopping someone unless there's a locking system, which I'm not aware of. Like I said, I don't own an electric vehicle, I never will. But unless there's a locking system to stop them from taking the cable or unplugging it out of your car or your charging point, which I doubt if they put them in public areas, as on your street lights, because they'll just want to put the cheapest ones in they can put in because they've got to put hundreds of thousands of them in.
No, so not only that, what's stopping them from just cutting the cable?
Well, yeah, there's that as well. You cut the cable. it's just not feasible yet.
No, we don't have the room or technology for it, to be honest with you.
A family member of mine's got one because of his work. It's a stipulation through his work. And he went to see another family member of mine. And in order to charge his car, he had to park it at the electric charging station. There's one of the petrol stations on the long road that around Stretford was knocked down, and an actual specific electric petrol station essentially has been built. And I know there's been others built in other places. He had to park his car there and then walk for 20 minutes to get to see this family member, my grandma.
Jesus Christ.
And then obviously when he finished seeing my grandma, he'd had to go back up to the petrol station and pick his car up.
So he had to leave it there unattended while he was obviously...
Now, granted, there's cameras and all that kind of shit, fair enough. I've been half tempted to pull into that petrol station because there's a Greggs there in my dirty 2011 plate diesel just for the fun of it. Lad, got any petrol? But yeah, there's not enough stuff. It's as simple as that. I've seen on my job, we've started putting temporary electric car chargers in I work in construction in the car parks, in the car parks for our staff members and the car parks for the contractors. Because a lot of our lads have electric cars, and some of the contractors have electric cars as well. But I don't see a future where electric cars are the main source.
Not yet. No, definitely not yet. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's never going to be a feasible way of getting around, but I just don't see it being now. I feel like we are too early for that. I mean, it's not like Demolition Man kind of modes of transport.
What a film.
Yeah, I know. I
What
thought you might like me.
What a reference.
I thought you might like that. But it's not like we're at that level yet. And we're definitely not. I mean, don't get me wrong. We've got technology in cars now where, self-drive, self-park.
I think that's a stupid fucking thing as well.
It is. It definitely is. Again, I don't think we're there. But the fact that we're implementing it, considering where cars were, 30 years ago when we were kids, considering where they were to where they are now, we've seen a good, a good kind of upgrade in cars and technology and the way they the way they are definitely getting better and easier for some people. But right now, I just don't think is the right time for, even in 10 years time, I don't think we're going to be at a place where full electric cars all over the place is going to be a viable thing.
Well, especially not now. They've started taxing them like regular vehicles.
Well, there is that.
They've changed the tax rules now, so there's no incentive to get an electric car anymore.
No.
I reckon that a lot of early adopters and a lot of people who get electric cars now are going to feel like right dickheads in 10, 15 years' time when hydrogen is what takes over.
Yeah.
The only problem with hydrogen at the moment, obviously, is you're basically driving around in a hydrogen bomb, which means that they have to protect the tank. Otherwise we'll end up fucking Hiroshima.
Which means your car weighs about 9 tons.
Well, look at Tesla when they first brought theirs out. The batteries were catching on fire because they were getting punctured, so we put a titanium plate underneath to protect the battery. How he didn't think of that in the first place, I'll never know, but there we go.
Guarantee it wasn't his idea.
So everybody sort of, you start off with a design and you can't foresee everything, fair enough. And you have to edit that design as it goes along, and it's all about development. JCB have approved hydrogen engines for a lot of their plant now. They've got a hydrogen engine that's been designed and installed in a lot of their plant and equipment. Now, granted, we don't have any on site. I don't know why. I don't get involved in that, but it's there. I think the Japanese car manufacturers were the ones that sort of started with hydrogen. I can't remember who without looking, but hydrogen is probably I think there was buses, was there? Hydrogen buses knocking about and all sorts. So
I think so, yeah.
It's my issue is why didn't they just develop a more economical fuel? Electric is not a good fuel
No, it's not.
because
It really isn't.
where do you get all the electric from? It wasn't all that long ago that the power grid couldn't deal with everybody putting the kettle on at half time in a football match. Do you know what I mean? I seem to just somewhere in the back of my mind that sticks out. The electric grid could not deal with everybody stopping at half time and having a cup of tea.
Coming from someone who hates sport with an absolute passion, by the way, guys. This is someone who does not follow sport.
Well, we say just football. Most sports, snooker and darts are good, right? But yeah, that's and they're trying to develop the power network as they go along to cope for all of this stuff, and it's just not. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. There's no way everybody's going to have an electric vehicle. You should have an electric vehicle. I'll finish on this because I know that I've waffled on about it. You should only have an electric vehicle if it suits what you need a fucking vehicle for. If you work 3 miles away from your fucking house and you don't go on mega long journeys loads, have an electric vehicle. Have the right tool for the right job.
Yeah, 100%.
As simple as that.
Yeah, I feel like that's a good way. A good kind of stopping point there. To be perfectly honest with you, so if you've enjoyed this episode, guys, don't forget we have a Twitter at Cut the Bull Pod. So you can always get in touch with us on there and leave your own comments. Or send us a DM on that of any opinions that you've got. You can also email us as well at cutthebullpod@gmail.com.
Yes, cutthebullpod@gmail.com. Well done.
So you can always email us there as well, and again, tell us your opinions. If you want us to read anything out, obviously send us in, and we'll keep you anonymous, guys. Obviously, so everyone's entitled to their opinion, but no one wants to kind of be named and shamed for it. So we'll keep you guys anonymous, just in case.
Well, for the most part, we're keeping anonymous. We're keeping anonymous for a few reasons. And that's why we're keeping anonymous. And we wouldn't expect you to not want to be anonymous. We're not. We have opinions, and our first episode proves we have strong opinions on some very big stuff. And on our next episode, we'll also have that kind of opinion thing.
Next episode's a doozy, guys. Make sure you tune in for episode 3 because it's gonna be a mad one.
Yeah. So So we'll keep you anonymous. We remain anonymous, and there are reasons for that. And we hope you enjoyed listening, and I hope it wasn't too boring. It's just something that's come up into the forefront, obviously, with 2030 and 2035, and it's something that I have strong opinions on, because I don't agree with it, basically. So yeah, hope you enjoyed listening, and we will see you on the next one.